Welcome back, everybody, to Plato's Academy. Today I'd like to talk with my bro, pick his brain a little bit about what he does in his high school, the Chesterton Academy. You remember Plato's Academy, Chesterton Academy? And ask him some questions about some of the greatest works he uses, some of the greatest works in the Western tradition, Plato's Republic and Dante.
Awesome.
And so, I mean, I've got all kinds of themes and some things I want to pick your brain about, but I know that those are really important to you. So maybe we could just start out by you just telling me why are those so important to you? Why are those so crucial to the education of a Catholic high schooler?
Because they help educate your humanity.
Okay.
That's the short version.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could explain that more, but some of the other things we've talked about kind of explain this a little bit.
Yeah. So unlocking the potentials.
Yes.
Actualizing the potentials of your humanity. So we talked about memory and music and other things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe when I think Dante, maybe Republic's different, but when I think Dante, I think your creative imagination.
That's
like
exactly
your moral
right.
imagination,
Yes.
like that fundamental part of our being.
Yes.
Right. And imagination is in this concept to me is super important because it's not just like, oh, I can close my eyes and create things.
I can imagine a dragon flying around.
It's more like your ability to conceptualize reality.
Yeah.
Is your moral imagination or your
creativity.
creative imagination. Yes.
It's creativity.
But I think of it as a sort of the conceptual element of it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So the significance, the kind of images that come, right?
Almost like your vision.
Your vision, that's right.
Yeah.
Your vision of the world.
Yes.
Right? And that comes from somewhere, right?
Yes.
And that's formed by the images that we think of Tolkien and like those, and we talked about the movie, obviously, with the music and Raoul Ross, right? And the Kings of Argonath, right? But the scene in the beginning with the creation of the cosmos through music, right?
Yeah.
The image of Numenor, all these like epic things.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So the epic in the imagination.
Well, I want to riff off a little bit when you said vision.
Yes.
So, first of all, why is Dante so important for students? I guess I could say selfishly because he was so important to me.
Yeah.
But he was important to me not as an individual in an individualistic sense.
Yeah.
Because Dante, I think, is the greatest poet that's ever lived.
Uh-huh.
I think it's the greatest poetic work.
Greater than Bill?
Greater than Bill.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And so because it was epic,
Yep.
it was longer,
Mm-hmm.
it was incredible symbolic universe.
Mm-hmm.
It was the culmination of all medieval thought. You could get a bookshelf in the library with remember those one places that have books and shelves and books and
libraries.
Libraries.
Yeah, libraries. That's right.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and you could find a shelf and it'd be like Dante on psychology, Dante on liturgy, Dante on
philosophy, Dante on politics,
theology, politics, boom, music, everything. Geology. I mean, on cosmology.
Yeah. It's like if you thought about Aquinas' Summa or whatever.
Yes.
Right, and like think of that as sort of containing this like philosophical theological schema.
Yeah.
Right, of everything that he had learned by that point.
Yeah.
Right, and you're like, well, that's like a representation of like the tradition behind him. Right. And you're like, well, Dante's doing that, but in this sort of with images and metaphors and story and narrative and characters and like the normal way that human beings think, right?
Yeah.
They don't think in these abstractions and everything.
Yeah.
They think in like story.
I'm so impressed by his genius every time I read it.
Yeah.
That alone blows me away.
Yeah.
But the vision part is the key I want to focus on when you're saying, because imagination is like a vision. Mm-hmm. But the entire journey Dante went on as a pilgrim, which is the character in a story.
Yes.
Which was in Western literature, that was totally new.
Yes.
He had
and to be human is to be a pilgrim, and to be a pilgrim is to be a human.
Yes, but that's true. But that's not what I was thinking.
Okay.
What I was thinking was in Virgil and Homer, it starts in media res, in the middle of the story.
Yes.
But Virgil and Homer are not characters in their stories.
Yeah.
Dante starts in media res, and he himself is the character. He's the poet and the pilgrim.
Right.
And then he says, midway
Subject and
upon our
object.
journey
Yes.
of our life's journey.
Yes.
I found myself in a dark wood.
Yes.
I had lost the straight way.
Wow. So he brings us into it right in the beginning. Our
First
life's
lines,
journey.
our life.
The journey of life.
Yes. And
Wow.
then he says, I found myself in a dark wood. And of course, the rest is history. In all the symbolic.
I mean, you could riff on a whole episode on just that idea.
Absolutely.
Of midway through life, you found yourself in a dark wood.
Obviously, the dark wood would be sin and error.
Yes.
Right.
And in the middle of our life, we don't
Yes.
understand things. We're
And
like
his
looking
sin-
for identity and looking
Yes.
to understand our world. Maybe Catholics, maybe Christians
Yes.
in this actual context. Yeah.
His sin and his error was kind of interesting. I don't know if you know this, but he was obviously a poet. But
I don't know
also,
anything. I'm a philosopher.
He was also a politician. You don't know anything. Yeah,
I'm a philosopher.
You're just a philosopher.
You tell me.
Yeah. And he was a politician. He was from a certain political party. that believed that the emperor should have more authority in civil temporal affairs than the Pope, and the Pope had too much authority at that time. And he was a Guelph. All right, he was actually a white
That's
Guelph.
different than an elf.
Yeah, that's different than an elf.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so he was a white Guelph who was opposed to the black Guelphs, but to go get way more confusing.
Crazy. It sounds like fantasy, but those are actually historical groups at that time.
Historical groups in
political
Italy.
groups.
Yes, political
factions.
groups. Yes, factions. Absolutely.
Parties, if you will.
Yeah, you could call them either one of those would be fine. Yeah, and he so he was a politician, but he's also a poet. And he was involved with a new kind of doing poetry, a new way of doing poetry. So he was trained by the best poets of the time. And most people think.
Can you just tell me really quick, because some of our viewers might be as ignorant as I am? Like, what are his precise?
That's pretty ignorant.
What are his precise dates?
So he was born in 1265 and he died in 1321.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Scotus was born in 1265.
There you go.
Right. So
yeah.
And so he's the greatest theologian in history. So that's
I'd say the greatest poet in history.
Interesting.
And the greatest,
Didn't know they were born
generation.
The same year.
And that age of faith and light and cathedrals and Gothic and Thomas Aquinas and all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it was an incredible time in history.
Fascinating.
Very colorful, alive, bright time, filled with a great hope and lots of new things that were really cool.
Yeah.
So in 1300, that with the famous Pope Boniface VIII, that's Unum Sanctum.
Okay.
You probably know about that as a papal the highest statement of papal authority.
Yes.
He was the bad guy in Dante's Divine Comedy.
Okay.
Because he was part of the problem that got Dante exiled.
Okay.
Because he allied himself with the group that was opposed to Dante's group, and Dante ended up being exiled.
Okay.
So he was from Florence. He loved Florence. He was married to a lady named Gemma Donati. He had children, and then he was exiled in 1302, and that's when he wrote the Divine Comedy.
Okay.
So he was exiled from his rest of his life, 20 years. Basically.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And so he obviously had a bone to pick. He had a little bit of bone. He's probably a wee bit angry.
Yeah.
And obviously anger sometimes can make us do really amazing things.
Yeah.
And so he wrote the Divine Comedy during this time. And then he died. I mean, in exile. He never came back to his beloved city.
Wow.
And there's a beautiful picture, a painting. You could look it up. It has, I can't remember the author or the artist now, but it has Dante standing outside of a city, and it has in the background, it has like the mountain Purgatory behind him, and you can see the kind of terraces. And on the picture on your left, when reviewing it, our left, there's like hell and the gate and like souls and stuff, and on the right is a city. But the gates are locked, the gates are shut, and he's standing outside in his robe and his medieval garb, and he's holding a book, the Divine Comedy.
Wow.
So anyway, like I said, I could talk about this for a really, really long time.
I love it. So you're talking about vision. That's where we got off.
Because Dante's entire journey is to see God, the beatific vision. That's where it ends. That's no spoiler.
Yes.
He goes through the Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso, and he ends with the vision of God.
He
which
goes
he can't
through
explain.
hell, into hell, through the earth, comes out on the other side, which is Mount Purgatory, climbs Mount Purgatory, is on the top of Mount Purgatory, and then God brings him up to heaven.
Well, yeah, God
Roughly?
does, but basically. Except there's a couple cool symbolic things. For example, like that hell is a cone in earth that came from St. Michael kicking out Satan and the devils.
Okay.
They hit the earth.
Right.
And
like
it created
a meteor.
Yes, like a meteor. It created this giant chasm.
Yes.
It's a funnel-shaped chasm down to the center of hell.
Right. So he descends into hell from the dark wood. He descends slowly into hell, all the different levels and all the different people and symbols of that. I know a little bit about the Inferno, but like I said in a previous episode.
And all the symbolic, I mean, he has threes everywhere. So he invented a kind of rhyme scheme called terza rima.
Okay.
And so it's A-B-A, and then B-C-B, and then C-D-C, and then D-E-D.
Understood.
Right?
Yeah.
And in Italian, it's obviously much different than English. And no English translation really can get, because there's so many, the endings in Italian, you know, just make it easier to rhyme and sound beautiful, where English doesn't quite get it.
Right.
I use the John Chiardi translation, but Anthony Esselin has a really great translation. Obviously, his other
I read
famous
Dorothy
thinkers.
Sayers' Inferno
Dorothy
translation.
Sayers has a great translation. Yeah, there's a lot of really good ones, and I'm not any kind of scholar to tell you what's good, but I like the Chiardi the best for teaching because it's all in one book with great.
Esselin's that was recent, right?
Recent, Random House, incredible. Does a really good job. I love his notes. Really good. So anyway, so it's about seeing God. And there's all sorts of stuff. Like the first realm is very concrete. The poetry is very concrete senses. You smell
the first
things.
realm. What do you mean by that?
The first realm, Inferno.
Inferno. Okay.
Yeah, he goes through three realms. So terza rima is 3 lines.
Yes.
Boom, boom.
Yes.
Each line is 11 syllables. So there's 33 total in each stanza.
Wow.
So 3 lines, 33 syllables each stanza.
I love the order.
34 cantos in Inferno, 33 and 33 for a total of 100 total cantos.
Isn't that amazing? I love the medievals, like, mind of pattern, of math, of symmetry, proportion. Like, they just have imbibed so much that this is God's world.
It's so incredible.
It's the perfect expression of a divine mind.
Yes.
Right, which we talked about as like the creation related to the creator, all the difficult philosophical questions.
In my room is a image.
Yeah.
The discarded image.
Yes.
Is in my room.
So which is the title of a Lewis book, which is incredible.
Yeah. Which is basically
Highly
the Aristotelian Ptolemaic universe, which the medievals believe. So the Earth was the center. It was a sphere, but it was fixed.
Yeah.
And then you had the atmospheres going on, earth, air, fire, water, and there was a sublunar sphere. That was atmosphere and air. Yeah. And then you go above that, and there's ether and these perfect circles. Anyway, so that.
But I want to say one word about that. From one thing I learned from Lewis's book, The Discarded Image,
which is awesome. I
wish I had it memorized, and I wish I knew where. But Boethius states, right, that even though we have this like image of the Earth in the center, it's in the center of the physical cosmos. Right. But in terms of the entire world order, God is the center. And this is what Boethius says, right? And we're like at the farthest edge of it. We're at the far reaches. So we're trying to get back to the metaphysical center, which is God. Right. So I like that modification because we think of, it's crazy that we're like so proud that we put ourselves in the center of the universe, the physical universe.
Well, Lewis does address that in the Discarded Image.
Yes.
At the very end.
Yes.
Yeah, where he says like reverse the whole thing.
Yes.
And that's the truth.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that idea is in Boethius.
Yeah, okay. That's where I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean I could give a apologetic on why everybody that wants to be educated should read Dante. And that's why it's in our curriculum. Yeah. An educated person should
hit me with
read
some
Dante.
of those features right
now.
Well,
I gave the symbolic universe. Yes. I mean, he's got threes everywhere.
So if we want the vision of the world as a divine order created, or an order created by a divine mind, then this is the way to see it.
First of all, there's two reasons. It even goes into what education is.
Yeah.
If education is just about getting a content, then you should read Dante. But that's not what education is. Yeah. So it's not just, I read Dante, I'm educated.
I got information.
I have information. I can tell you what trisarima is. I can tell you about the symbolic universe and how number 9 represents Beatrice, and he saw Beatrice when she was 9 years old, and how several interesting things. There's one interesting thing where the cantos, I have no idea if Dante meant this. Some commentators think he did. In the canto 6 of each realm is a political invective or encomium, or a political aside.
Wow. That's interesting.
And it's very interesting, though. 6, 6, 6.
Yeah.